Excellent connection. Well, I'm live. What can I say? Now I need to find a way to give you access. Let's see. Haven't done it in a long way. It's a long time. Yeah. I got one view already. B Rock, good day. Good day, B Rock. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm trying to see how I can get. Oh, yeah, there you go. Get a link to share. I'm gonna send this out to the Twitter and let's see what we have today. Numero 3. We are live. Boom. Okay, let's see what's cooking here. Poland Chia, hi. How you doing? Hey B Rock, it's great to have you. It's been a long time since I did one of these AMAs. Unfortunately, the life circumstances have gotten in the way, and I had to like sort of divert my attention to my family. But everything is going great. As each day that passes actually increases the chances of my kids' survival, and it's amazing to see how my wife has been pulling through. It's just she's a hero. Yeah, with the baby's not here yet. She's just in the belly, and I would like to see her stay there as long as possible. But anyway, enough about me. How is everything going with you guys? What's the mood? Hey Ron Hill, happy to see you too. It's great to have you. Cardano community is the best. I have to say, as we grow, it's becoming difficult to keep up with everything that's been going on, but it's so good to see a new kind of wave of people coming into the ecosystem and building things and bringing new perspectives, etc. And that's the beauty of decentralized systems, right? You want them to grow. Back in the day, it's 2017, 2018. You could count on your fingers how many people were quite active. Back in the day, it was like forum dot cardano.org. We used to hang out there, talk about price, talk about future, talk about decentralized finance. We talked about reading all these papers and trying to figure out how this thing is going to be built. Shelly's here. I'm running a pool that is powering the transactions in a decentralized network. It's mind-boggling every time I think about this and kind of look back at my banking days, and it's just mind-boggling that a bunch of computers out there in the world are facilitating transactions that they're processing transactions that amount to billions of dollars. It's just mind-boggling, and it's done independently. I'm running my node just thinking about my own sort of self-interest, so to say, and everybody else is doing the same, and it just works, right? And the good thing is that I've had experience working with ITN, for instance, in the early ITN days. It's just amazing to see the code base, the Haskell node, to perform the way it does. I'm just truly impressed. I cannot wait until I have time to start actually digging into the Plutus and try writing some contracts to see how things work on the Plutus side. I expect nothing but spectacular things from this Cardano network. Hey, AEW, how you doing? Yeah, Ron Hill says 100% best community. Love the friends and working partners I've made. Ron, what are you building on Cardano? I wonder. Now I just got my curiosity piqued here. I want to know what's what everybody's working on. Hey Gary, AMA on Mondays. Hey, you know, um, it's a surprise AMA, Gary. We have something especially interesting coming in this Cardano 360, huh? Um, we're gonna find out what's going on and what's cooking. This morning, I think I found out that we are good to go on the test net. I wonder what this whole thing is gonna look like. The Gogan testnet. Um, Okay, so Gary is asking, talk about stablecoins and where you think this falls into the sequence of the sequence of what? I guess he probably pressed enter too soon. I'm just gonna wait until Gary finishes his sentence. Gary and I go back a while. I went to New York, I think, in 2018. I did a presentation there for the Cardano stakeholders about like how I viewed the protocol and what it needed to do in order to stay sustainable economically. All right. So a sequence of will USD also be the Cardano just the ERC20 token? Uh, okay. So yeah, Gary, I think that the great thing about the USDC is that it is a digital representation of dollar for all intents and purposes. And the more I think about it and think about the US government or the Fed's position at this point, the more I'm convinced that the United States isn't going to go into a China mode where they will, develop their own blockchain. And I used to think that, by the way, because if anybody in the in the world could do that, it's just countries that have the resources. The cryptographers are top notch here in the United States that could just build something like that. Um, but then you also need to think about the expediency and convenience of things, and if USDC meets all these purpose all these requirements, then why waste resources on building something else, right? Now China will go in its own way because they are quite centralized, and it, if you have the USDC in a decentralized sort of manner, it actually builds confidence because it exists independently, right, of the U.S. government. The only thing the U.S. government probably or the Fed will, I mean, I don't even think that the Fed could affect the supply of USDC. If somebody decides to issue USDC, they just issue USDC. But to your question, Gary, I think USDC will be multi-platform. There's no reason for it to be ERC20 only. And you and I, we basically know that gas prices don't make it user friendly. So it's going to migrate eventually to all the platforms. It's going to exist in different form. And I think eventually you will be able to move USDC from one platform to another. So that's basically my take on that. Let's see what else is there. Working on some projects. Ron Hill says that he's working on some projects with Gimbal Labs right now. Oh yeah, that rings a bell. Gimbal Lab. One-to-one scheduling app is the most involved. I'm right now have my own project just being drafted right now, nothing built yet. Ron Hill, kudos to you, and Godspeed, because I can't wait what people will build on this platform. I think you could, if you can basically look at the success of NFTs in Cardano, you can see that there's a pent up interest about this from developers. They want to build stuff, and even if things are not quite there yet, in terms of issuing tokens and managing the the token sale, for instance, people are willing to take time to build something custom made in order to make sure that the process of issuances goes really well. I'm talking mostly about the first coins, the first NFTs that were issued I forgot their name. That's. I need more coffee. Um, let's see here. AEW is saying, where would you recommend someone to go to start learning about what it takes to operate a pool? Ooh, there are lots of resources out there. The um, the the quickest one that I can think of is Coin Cashew, I think. Or the Cashew something. No, not Coin Cashew or Cashew Pool or something Cashew. Let me just see if I can um pull up that. I just can't remember that. But there are a couple of resources that I found really interesting and very well thought out in terms of giving you the access to what it needs what you need to operate a pool. But there, if you go to Cardano.org, there will be links, official links to the places where you will go, and they will walk you through the process of setting up your pool. I'm sorry if I couldn't give you the links. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. But I'm sure you could find it. It's a couple of resources that are really good. All right. Orpheus Morpheus is saying, is it true when you pay with ADA, everybody sees how much it's is on your wallet? Well, that's a good question, Orpheus Morpheus. So the way it works is if your wallet is staked and you paid out of that wallet, if essentially, you will expose your entire kind of stack. That's the way it works. And if you want to pay for something, you might want to have a wallet that is not staked. And even if it's not staked, if it has staking key, it will, somebody could look up the entire balance of your wallet. So you might, if you're paying for something, I would recommend just basically doing an enterprise wallet if you can. And this is something that you do on a CLI basis. I've never seen any wallet actually, the UI based wallet offer you that functionality. Maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I know, that when you create a wallet on any UI based wallets here, Yoroi or Daedalus, you will get a staking key, and that kind of creates that sort of problem in a sense. But if you want to be anonymous in terms of payments, just create a temporary wallet, just put a whatever amount that you need to be put there, and that's it. Let's see. Chris PW is saying, what will stop someone copying Cardano code when finished and hands compete? Nobody. And that's the beauty of decentralization. Now these people, when they copy the code, I applaud them. I mean, if they want to do something better than Cardano, the IOHK is doing, it's a really high bar. For one thing, I can tell you, you see, Charles is not a stupid guy, right? Because when I was in the IOHK summit in 2019, somebody told me that 50% of all the Haskell developers were in that one particular spot, right? And 50% of really top notch sort of Haskell developers, are employed by IOHK. Now, if you want to develop something, you have to find those other 50%, to keep up with not the 50%, but you have to have access to those. And these people are expensive. It's A, and B, they're working already in really cushy jobs. And it would be a tough sort of thing to compete with unless you just basically copy and every time, do whatever IOHK says, then what's your value add, right? If you do that. But regardless, I can see that could become a problem if somebody decides to do that. It could be another private company, or not private company, but, a group of people. It could be governments, actually. And, my take is that, anything that you think you could do better, go ahead and do it. And it's open source. So Connor Connor Kevel is saying, how far can ADA go up? No, I can't. I can't tell you about the price because I've been wrong and I will always be wrong. Because it depends on type and timing and a bunch of other factors. And sometimes when you think that finally the markets are catching up with the fundamentals, and things just go wrong, and Bitcoin starts tanking and everything else starts tanking. I just don't want to comment on the price because I don't want to build expectations or anything. I think in a long run, decentralized blockchain is here to stay and it's gonna do wonders. Just people don't realize it, especially the people who are investing in this space. Unfortunately, if you are investing in Dogecoin, do you know how I know why people are clueless? Is because people invest in Dogecoins. And Dogecoin was what, number 5, number 6. Nothing against speculation if you know what you're doing, but I don't think that coin as it stands today has any fundamentals to actually be wherever it is. Now it could change, if Elon Musk decides to take it over and it becomes a Mars currency. Yeah, I mean it could happen. If you want to bet on that, you could do that. Let's take a look. Cardano Live. Hey, Rick, how you doing? Good to see you here. Says, thank you for the tax season video earlier this year. Yeah, earlier this year, I thought, maybe we could bring a couple of tax, people who are expert in this sphere and just ask them a couple of questions. He says, Cardano Life says the 3 guests you had on were super helpful in providing insight and helped me do research by understanding the terms and definitions as I looked up the tax law for my region. Cool. I'm glad it was helpful. I mean, if you guys want those kinds of experts to come online and I'm more than happy to accommodate. I have a vast network of people who might be of value for the space, for the community. Space Buds. Yes, Ron Hill Space Buds. They're my favorite, and will always be because it's just I was just impressed by the ingenuity of the engineers who worked on these. There were a bunch of them after that, and there were some really cool artistic ones, and I can't wait to sort of pick and choose. I'm not a big fan of NFTs, to be honest, as a concept. Not that I think they should exist. They do exist, and they provide a really good sort of value add for people. But it's not something that excites me all the time. It's a great way of showcasing the utilization of the platform. And again, Cardano is a cross section of the entire globe. I think it's just basically represents everybody in whoever wants to build. They build something, and that's the beauty of it. Rananave says there is also a Docker containers, etc. to go through the local node pain, but the rest is surprisingly easy. The hardest part is marketing. You need to get stakers. That's true. The technical part, it has a steep learning curve if you have never done this, and if you've never done this, probably you shouldn't. I don't know. If you are really committed to it, then you should basically take a look at it. But running a pool is a full-time job. You have to make sure that everything is done, especially on the security side. My heart goes out to those really, really technically savvy people who lost their ADA or got hacked. I can think of 2 or 3 cases where things were really, really bad and grim. And in the beginning, when we had CLI-based wallets and we put all our savings basically as pool operators in these CLI-based addresses, I could not sleep at night. Now everything is fine because thanks to the scripts that the community members, the Atada pool has written, we were successfully managed to basically put all our stakes and pledges onto not the pledge. Oh, the pledge too. Yeah. Pledge is also on the cold storage, but in the beginning things were really bad, and if you had a misstep on the security side, you got hacked, and people got hacked. So it's not easy. Eye of the King says that, how come you're so awesome? That's because I have a good teacher. It's called Eye of the King. How about that for the answer? Rananave says there's a full transaction history, so no secrets. You need to go through the privacy coins such as Monero, Zcash, SEX to decouple wallet info. I mean, I tend to agree with that. This the way that the UTXO works is that you could trace any transaction, and that's what makes it actually a really dumb. If you're a criminal and you're using a public blockchain like Bitcoin or Cardano for that matter, you will be traceable no matter what you do with that ADA. That ADA is tainted, kind of, and we will get to a point where exchanges will be able to differentiate between the good ADA and bad ADA. This is the way that the diamond, sort of the blood diamonds, are being traced or whatnot, right? But it will be traced with 100% certainty. So if, let's say that you have an ADA that has been stolen or something like that, right? You may not be able to sell it or liquidate it because it's going to be tagged, kind of. So, be careful out there. And the ADA that is coming fresh from the the treasury or from the rewards will have a premium, sort of, because it will be clean. I think that might be the way that we might develop. But again, it all depends on the laws. If I'm buying something without knowing that it's been stolen or something like that, then and it's 7 steps apart, and we know that it's gone through some sort of a randomization, then you're not going to be at fault for buying it. I don't know. I mean, I can't make comments on these legal things, but just it's interesting to kind of think about those. Imagine so Rana Nave. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, or Nick. I'm just trying to make sense of it. Ravenavi is saying that imagine Vitalik realizing that Cardano got everything right and trying to copy instead of working on ETH2. I mean, actually, I floated that idea a couple of times. I am being hated in the ETH community for that. It's such a hard thing to do, to transition from proof of work to proof of stake. That it might be much easier to basically copy the state on ETH and just paste it on Cardano. Basically copy the Cardano and that would be it. The difficult part is deciding which part of the UTXO you want to bring in, and I think the easiest thing for if ETH was to do that, they would just basically say, okay, well, some of these big whales aren't going to be part of the ecosystem, so we're going to get rid of them, but we're going to reallocate that UTXO to somebody else. But yeah, can't copy the community. That's true. Can't copy the bird. Oh gosh, this guy. Revenavi is saying if Elon thinks that Dogecoin is so great, and he would start playing with employees with it. Let's see what happens. I agree with that. If show us a conviction, right? And his employees are gonna be basically dumping it, probably. Who knows? Thoughts on Gero wallet? Never heard of it. I don't know. Again, I haven't been too closely paying attention to everything that's been going on. So, if you guys, I have no idea about. Is it a Cardano wallet? AEW is saying, I could see NFTs becoming very important and valuable in the luxury goods memorabilia space, e.g. certifying authenticity. I agree with you. I think, art as we know it is going to transition completely on a digital realm. Right now, if you just think about it, right? If you're a wealthy person, right, and you want to buy something, right? You go and find that perfect artist that you want to support. And I know people in my network that do that, right? They just try to invest into up and coming artists, and their bet is as follows, right? So they say, we want to buy art that we like, and if it quadruples in price in 10 years or whatnot, then it's a gravy, right? So we can decide at that point to sell it or not. But the problem there is that if you're buying secondhand, you don't know if that piece is authentic, right? And even if it's being told, even if you're being told that it's authentic, it may not be. There's a lot of risks. That's what I'm trying to say. That the artist may not be authentic, or the storage cost if you're not holding it in your own apartment is high, right? Especially about the high price items and whatnot. Then there is the problem with theft, and then if you want to offload that risk to another sort of entity, right? The products are available, right? So if you're holding a piece of art that is worth millions of dollars, first of all, you cannot hold it in your house. And if you have a mansion of a house that has security and all that, okay, maybe you could do that. But then again, you have to pay somebody an insurance in order to make sure that there's an insurance against theft or fire or damage. So all in all, when you are buying a piece of art, you are liable, you're incurring annual cost for holding it. And that goes the same for gold, for instance, right? You buy gold, you don't hold it in your vault. You put it somewhere, and that somewhere has, guards, and those guards need, a salary, and all that cost is passed on to you as a holder of the asset. Now, all of that is kind of completely taken care of when you think about these assets on the digital blockchain, right? Now, the only thing that you should be concerned about is your ledger, and that's it. And anything that social engineering that could trigger you to give out your PIN code or whatever, or your seeds. And it's a much smaller surface of attack, if you ask me, and that creates a lot of efficiencies in this space. And I think it's going to go that way, and all these new up and coming artists, they will be issuing everything as NFTs. I think this is where it's gonna go. This is they will probably pick the blockchain that is secure, that is not going to, kind of fork and transition into something else, and you lose your NFTs. And it's built right from the beginning. And, if you didn't get the hint, it's Cardano, right? So that's that. So Ron Hill is saying maybe NFTs are as collectible. However, NFTs as a whole have multiple of use cases and haven't been explored yet. Property, for example, will definitely come to blockchain as NFT, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? I thought about, by the way, putting titles on the blockchain is a very low-hanging fruit from the point of view of utilization. Titles to land, titles to property, whatever you have, right? And I think it requires, especially in the United States, where I kind of sort of explored this situation a little bit. Apparently, again, I'm not an expert, but apparently all these titles for land are sort of regulated on a county basis, and so for you to be able to put them all on blockchain, you have to kind of make sure that all these counties have agreed upon sort of place where they store this information, and there has to be somebody that verifies that, and transfers take place in there. So there's a lot of work to be done there from a legal point of view, but it's especially easier for countries that don't have the infrastructure to build this on a blockchain like Cardano. So yeah, I mean, it's a great use case for that. It just when you're buying and selling a house, it slashes the transaction costs so much, which creates incentives for the incumbents to actually oppose it. Which is the the kind of a curse of developed world, because there are so many different economic entities that are feeding off of the supply chains, the current economic supply chains that power these industries, that there will be a resistance to them. And as Charles points out, it's much easier to introduce these concepts on a country basis in places where they don't exist, but they could, be extremely important and elevate the standard of living in countries that don't have it, because of the fact that it's so easy to roll out. So, I think we are going to see the countries that don't have them to roll them out. And then we will see gradual adoption in developed countries. Hey, Big Pay, what's up? Good to see you here. The Gary is saying, is asking your thoughts on Cardano thriving during the next winter downturn. Oh, I was secretly hoping that we will decouple. He says that a thesis that we focus on identity solution projects like World Mobile supply chains, avoid DeFi stuff if it's slow to mainstream. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of fundamentals, I still believe that the value proposition of Bitcoin and the value proposition of platforms like Cardano, Ethereum, Avalanche, or Algorand are completely different. I mean, Bitcoin does what Bitcoin does. It just basically says, I'm the store of value, and you buy me if you don't like the currencies that of your country, right? And there is an investment thesis there built around that. But what that asset class does shouldn't be correlated to what Cardano does. It's just like saying, okay, let's tie the entire stock market price to the price of gold. It should be actually uncorrelated, because that value proposition has nothing to do with what will be generated in terms of economic activity and economic value on projects like Cardano, Ethereum, Avalanche, or Algorand. And I don't understand to this point, I don't understand why there is a correlation, except for the fact that maybe it's just a liquidity-driven sort of market, and people have no idea what they're buying. And again, going back to my question, a comment about Dogecoin, if Dogecoin can reach this kind of market cap, maybe we are in a place where people don't know what they're buying. So, yeah, I think the decoupling will only happen if we are, if the price is driven by fundamentals, by real demand. Now, just imagine, right? The 5 million people that Cardano is onboarding this year, they will need ADA in order to record transactions. And if there is a constant demand for ADA in order to be able to transact on this network, then it will slowly and surely increase the pressure on the price as a result of real demand coming into the system. And that real demand is going to come directly to ADA, hopefully directly, not through, I don't have to buy Bitcoin in order to get to ADA kind of situation. So if there are rails that will allow me to, let's say, whatever the currency of Ethiopia is, for instance, to basically exchange Ethiopian currency into ADA, then it will be completely independent of, the price will be independent of what I need to do in order to get to ADA. And that will basically drive the decoupling the way I see it. And by the way, Gary, I think decentralized finance has its use cases. And at this point, I think we are kind of ahead of in this regard, we are ahead of actual adoption, because in financial market, what happens is that you have a need. Let's say that I'm a corn producer. I need to sell my product. I don't want to take a risk of fluctuation of the prices, and the financial market comes up with a product to solve my problem, right? So they say, all right, we have a product for you, farmer. You can sell us your corn at this price, and you can forget about the price of the corn when the harvest time comes. So what that allows me to do is just basically stabilize, lock in the price for my crop, and pass on that risk to the financial intermediary that may benefit or may lose. And the other side of the equation there is that, they basically take a bunch of these contracts, and then they can optimize them so that, if they lose little, and if they win, they win, right? So it works that way. And when you think about DeFi, the DeFi is an interesting sort of, at the interesting point where the products are there, but the use cases for those products. Let's say that I'm taking a loan, right? I'm taking a loan against my ADA position or Bitcoin position. What am I going to do with this? If you think about it really hard, the only application is trading, and that trading has no other real world applications except for trading itself, which basically is like an internal mechanism that feeds on itself, and it could go both ways, right? It could go up or it could go down, depending on where the market goes. So while I understand your apprehension about the decentralized finance, but I think when we have real use cases on blockchains like Cardano, when we have real businesses running their books on Cardano, let's say, then you might be able to use DeFi, the same structures, in order to lend, for instance, to the coffee farmers in Ethiopia, et cetera, et cetera. And that's basically, I'm just taking the lowest hanging fruit there. Why can't we provide the futures contract for coffee producers in Ethiopia, on a decentralized finance, on a decentralized exchange on Cardano? There shouldn't be any impediments for that. I surely hope we should be able to build these instruments. The only difficulty here is that you don't know the identity, you cannot verify if that farm exists, and that is the crucial piece of information which Atala is trying to solve. This is a brilliant solution, and makes me so optimistic about the future of Cardano, because without that crucial piece, and not only that, you also have to have partnership with governments on the local side to enforce, let's say that, a farmer defaulted on a loan that you have given them, right? What happens during that time? You have to sell those assets in order to recover your loan, and that needs to take place on a local level so that you can actually recover for the market mechanism, for the economics to actually work. Because if you don't have that assurance, then the whole thing falls apart. So you could build beautiful sort of constructs on the blockchain that wouldn't work on the real life side, on the other side. Then the whole system wouldn't work. So having that bridge between the virtual and the real is quite important. The World Mobile and has a great solution, because it actually has a it's trying to solve the problem of connectivity, right? Which is a problem, especially in rural areas in Africa and whatnot. So my preference would be for some really big thing to happen that would completely solve the problem of connectivity on a global basis, right? But we might be too far away from that. So why not? So Ron Hill says, that's true. It will be easier in other countries, but there are also many people in the US that don't have access to a lot of that. Could be made accessible via disrupting the current broken processes. I wrote an article about this for the CFA Society. I think there is an underserved sort of portion of population in the United States, at least, that is preyed upon, sort of by not, I wouldn't call them nefarious, but because they take risks, right? But all of that could be facilitated, and the risks could be lowered by if there was a way to tie the identity and your economic life to the blockchain, or some sort of a metric that could help you be motivated to keep it up. I mean, we have credit scores in the United States, and if you know that the credit score is important, then you will do everything possible in order to keep it up, and that should be enough motivator. But things get out of hand, and people lose track of things, and the circumstances of people's lives can actually cause them to default on things, and it could happen to the best of us. So I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting sort of problem to solve, and in the U.S. and the Western countries, there are other things that could help you, whereas in emerging markets, even if you're the A+, AAA sort of borrower, you are immediately met with suspicion from the providers of capital in the developed world, because there is no track record. That's a much sort of bigger problem, and a problem with more ROI attached to it, I would say. That is not to say that the people who can't have access to financing in the United States are less important, but I think the combination of incumbents and the fact that we have other tools makes it a little bit hard to adopt these solutions in developed world. Ron Hill is continuing. He says, such as home financing due to bad regulations and credit score systems that don't serve us anymore. Lenders that would like to lend to willing and able participants can bypass via smart contracts. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that it can do with smart contracts is you build these decentralized pools of capital that will manage themselves in a way, right? I mean, one of the things that I thought about as somebody with finance background is that, let's say that you have a bunch of people with money that would like to invest in crypto assets, and how would you manage that in a decentralized way? And in its simplest form, as far as I understand, these liquidity pools, what they do is that they do it through collateral, right? They de-risk those positions through collateral. You post the collateral, you get 150% collateral you post, and then there's a bunch of oracles that are feeding prices to this contract, and if your position is lower than whatever threshold that they have set, then you get liquidated. And that's the way things work. And that's an easy way to basically guarantee or reduce the risk of counterparty risk. But it also reduces the latitude of financial instruments you can actually provide, right? What about products that do not require collateral, right? So you should be able, in a banking system, you can go and you can say, okay, here's my salary, here's my assets, and you should be able to get a personal loan. Yes, they are more expensive because they carry more risk, but they are not backed by any type of assets. And I would like to see more diversity in the types of instruments that we can provide in a decentralized way through those kind of smart contracts. Now, it's not possible now because the risks are just too big, because I don't know who you are. You're just a wallet. And I have zero visibility into your cash flows. That could change with Atala, because especially if you are game theoretically motivated to have and maintain only one identity, and build that identity in a way that that would discourage you economically to sabotage it. And if you tie that identity to your economic life and economic, sort of cash flows, then it becomes easier for the banks to say, okay, well, this person has a wallet, and that wallet is tied to a bunch of assets. Those assets are producing cash flows, and those cash flows actually are able to sustain a certain amount of debt. Yes, these assets are not going to be used as a collateral, but the cash flows from those assets could be used. So imagine if you are a Cardano stakeholders, 5 years down the road, you have X amount of stake, and that stake is producing rewards. No, now, assuming that you sort of pledge, or you say that you are going to use the cash flows from those assets in order to service the debt, and that those cash flows are enough to let you service that debt, you should be able to get a non collateralized loan, because if effectively you will be able to service the loan without having to jeopardize or sell your collateral. So I can't wait to see for the time like that to happen. I'm sure it's doable, but it requires that you place a lot of confidence in that entity or the identity in the system, and that will come with time. I think there will be times when people will take loans and they will never repay, and then they will have to be kind of tainted in the market, or their score will go down to a point where nobody will give them anything, and that will basically get them to have to restart from zero and try to build their credit. And if the time it takes to build that credibility is half your life, you would think twice before doing something crazy like that. So my thinking is that if the game theoretics are built really well, very well, and I have confidence that IOHK is thinking about these things, then you will have a system that is self-fulfilling and is in a virtuous cycle where more people will join. They will want to do economically benefit. They will want to bring economic activity onto the chain and use that economic activity to interact with financial institutions, decentralized financial institutions, and take this. I mean, think about it as a virtual country. That's what I can kind of think about when I think about these kind of platforms. So so let's see. Hello, Alexander Weir. Good to see you here. Let's see. Ron Hill says, there you go. Exactly my thoughts. You can deal in cash only and have a bad credit score because you haven't used loans. Then when you do that, do what you want. When you do want a loan, not qualify by providing your assets and cash flows. Okay. Will open up to many more options for lenders to help borrowers. Yeah, that's true. I mean, as a banker, I'll tell you that I used to finance large infrastructure projects around the world, and one of the bizarre things that we were faced with, and I never agreed to that, but the fact that it exists and it is a real problem always made me uneasy, because you could be the best person, the best business in the country, and you want to borrow at a really good rate that your counterparts in developed countries would enjoy, but you are not. You don't have access to that rate. And you know why? Because if your government is not good or rated bad, or it has a bad track record, no matter what you do in that country, your ability to repay the loan is impaired by the actions of the government. And the way it works is that, let's say you take a loan, you take a multi-million-dollar loan, and you want to repay it. And the times get, let's say the economic cycles go up and down, and let's say that you took it at a really good time, and now things are going really bad, but you hedged yourself. You are a very responsible corporate citizen, and you want to repay that loan. Now, your country could say, I actually need these hard dollars, so I'm gonna just put some really bad restrictions, currency exchanges and whatnot. They have latitudes, enormous latitude about what they could do with inflows and outflows of capital, and they can just basically, provide, not provide, but they could put a lot of roadblocks for you to basically repay your loans from the proceeds of cash that you earn in that particular country, and that's a problem. Now, if your economic activity is on the cloud, so to say, if it's on the blockchain, then it becomes completely isolated from the rules and regulations of a country, right? Now, that is not to say that the corporates don't have access to offshore banking accounts and things like that. But then again, their ability to transfer money to offshore banking accounts in order to service debt is still, dependent on the mechanisms that are put in place in the banking system of a particular country. Now, that country, if they understand the challenges and they are not draconian in their rules, then the country will evolve, and you will have better rates as a corporate citizen within that country. But if they are jittery, if the government has no idea how to kind of exist within the ecosystem of a global commerce and global banking, then they will do crazy things that will lower the rankings of that country within the banking system because they're too risky. But without going into too many details, I think if in the ideal world, you would have corporations that exist, their books would exist on the blockchain, and you will invariably, with 100% certainty, will be able to see their ability to service debt because they will have cash flows, their balance sheet because they will have all their assets in tokenized form, and ideally they will exist in countries where the rule of law will uphold the things that take place on the events that take place on a blockchain. Let's say that I defaulted on something. You need a local enforcement agency in order to be able to sort of recover your collateral, sell it, or whatever you need to do in order to basically recover your losses and recover your principal as a lender. And this is a building block for a sound economic systems. That's how it will go. It's the way that the world works. It's the way that the banking system works, and that's the way that countries and humanity develops. It's basically, supply of capital somewhere in the very developed world where there's low interest rates, chasing high interest rates in developing world where there isn't much of capital, but a lot of economic potential. All right. Anything else happening in the community that you would like to discuss? It's it's very choppy waters in the past few days. It's been quite nerve-wracking, to say the least. I wonder if you have any thoughts about what kind of dApps you think would be very popular on Cardano. I personally would like to see the identity solutions to come online in a decentralized way, so we could create identities. One of the things that I think about very often is just think about mail, right? Think about the mail and email. I don't think it should exist. In this day and age, mail should not exist. I'm sorry if you really like the postal service and you like to receive cards from your grandma, but every time I get mail, I get frustrated because it creates mental load on me to sort through all that stuff and put it in the garbage. Most of it goes in the garbage. It just creates zero economic value for me, and it's all cost because I'm spending my time. It shouldn't exist. So, and then there's email, right, where you have latitude to basically create as many emails you want, etc., etc. Now, what if we had a system where your identity is tied to a number that is very unique? Let's call it public key, and that public key is your address, and it doesn't really matter where you live. You have access to that mailbox that kind of, forever stores all the information that you will ever get in that mailbox. It's kind of like a Google, but not managed by one corporation that kind of mines your email and harvests all the information for whatever reasons they see fit. But it's a, maybe you need to pay some, token amount in order to sustain that database. But given the fact that the storage costs have been going down and they're going to go down for the foreseeable future compared to the amount of information that we're generating, we should be okay with that value proposition. I think I would love to see an email, decentralized email on Cardano. I wouldn't call it even email. I would just say it's mail. And the way it would work probably would be that you will have an identity, but that identity would have to be countersigned by, let's say, an authority. And if the post office or the US government, let's say, does that, it would be just fantastic, because then that identity is confirmed, right? So I have, let's say, Umed Saidov is identified as this number, and that number has been confirmed by the US authorities, and basically it means that I am what I am, who I say I am, because somebody else has verified that information. And then that email or that number that represents my mailbox would be actually, if you send something there, you would be actually sending it to me and I would be reading it. And that would be, you think about how much money you would save. The entire post office will have to go away. And you probably will take away a lot of business from the email providers, but that email will be yours, which is the way it was intended in the beginning. The more I think about internet in its original form, the more I'm frustrated with what we are faced right now. If you want email, you have to host it somewhere else, and if you host it somewhere else, then you have to give up your privacy rights. It shouldn't be that choice. There shouldn't be that choice to begin with. And I think platforms like Cardano, are architecturally designed to actually provide you with those kind of things. Now, I don't think that the entire email database or whatnot is going to live on the same chain. There probably will be side chains that will hold this information for you, but it will be a token cost, token amount that you will have to pay. And if you own ADA, then you're staking, it would probably be able to actually, sustain it indefinitely with those rewards. Okay. Ron Hill, you raise a really good point about the vaccines. He says that as long as the identity solutions don't get tied to any sort of vaccine passports that limit your travel or access to certain location, I think they will provide massive value. Now, I think about these instruments as something that you could use for surveillance or whatnot, or you could use them for, government efficiency or massive efficiencies that you could actually tap into as a result. Now, they do provide, avenues to create all these, abilities for the state, let's say, to actually massively, do the surveillance on you and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if they live on a decentralized sort of manner, and that decentralization is architected in such a way that it gives you, the user, the control over the information that you share, then I think it should be, that risk should be minimized. But again, could some nefarious government use the blockchain in order to do something bad with their population? Yes, they could. But again, at the end of the day, it's the choice of that government and how people will, I think, react to that choice that will be important. Um, my preference would be, in addition to mail, in addition to identity, to actually have voting on the blockchain, because it's just such a natural solution. Because once you have identity, voting is just the next step. If the government can verify your identity and put it on the blockchain, then they can verify your vote. And you don't have to go to places, stay in line, blah blah blah. It's done from the phone that you have. So I mean, there's that. That's the beauty of kind of decentralized sort of blockchain, and the reason why I would say people will have more trust in the decentralized blockchain to put those kind of votes is because it's not owned by anybody, and you have inherently more trust in that kind of architecture. Um, um, Alexander Ware is raising a good question here with regard. I guess it's with regards to the emails, right? You say that sending should cost something so you don't get spammed and advertisement all day long. Yeah. So let's say that sending, costs something, but it's not prohibitive in a sense that you basically break the bank, right? And I mean, I would pay a fraction of a cent for sending something. The problem with making it free is that somebody could send millions of transactions, right, millions of emails, and overload your system, especially on a decentralized level. If there's no cost, then you have problems. And if you put it at a fraction of a cent, then it becomes very expensive for people to send, let's say, 100 emails or 1,000 emails or whatnot. And if they do want to send that email, they better have good commercial sort of reason to do that. So I would say it will reduce the spam. You would be getting less emails from the Nigerian prince asking you to deposit some money so you could get millions of dollars in your account. Nice. Mm, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, do you guys like these kind of interactions, the email, the AMAs? I'm thinking about making them a little bit more um, regular, and talk to the audience in a different way and engage them. And I could bring, as Rick suggested, experts in different kind of areas to shed light on some of the things that might be important, whether it be I don't know, taxation, or legal landscape and things like that. I mean, my expertise is in finance, and I bring it in. Share my thoughts about that. I run pools. I can talk about that. Soon, hopefully soon, I'll be getting my feet wet with DApp development and Plutus and whatnot, and I can talk about that and just share my experience about the whole thing. I can tell you that functional programming is quite fascinating. I haven't done Haskell per se, but because it's just such a daunting sort of experience. But I was handhold, I was handheld by a good friend of mine, Eric Harding, who's a professional, an ex Microsoft guy, and he said, I should take a look at F sharp, and I tried to basically build a program or run a program on things like that, and try to make sense out of its logic, the way that functional programming works. And it's just fascinating. The way I kind of understand this logic is that you are given, when you're doing, I've done some Python, right? So it's imperative programming. You just write variables, there's loops and all these kind of objects that you manipulate. And in functional programming, there's a lot of types, and then you have to define a lot of types, and then you have to tell the program what they do, and everything is a function, and it's a completely different kind of mentality. And the way I think about it is that you are giving a bunch of puzzle pieces, and you are telling the program to where these puzzle pieces to go, where these puzzle pieces will go, and then when the time comes to kind of it doesn't compile immediately, or it doesn't give you errors immediately, or it doesn't execute immediately. But the thing is that it checks you in every step before even getting to compilation, and it tells you oh, you did this right, did this wrong, etc., etc. And then, but once you have gone through the pain of writing the program, everything just works. You don't have this inkling of a thought in the back of your mind, maybe I did something wrong and my program is not going to run properly, and people could lose money. It's very important when you're running a decentralized exchange or anything of importance to be able to say definitively that the program will not run the way that I intended it to run. And functional programming just gives you that framework to make the right decisions, or avoid the bad decisions or whatnot. And I don't know enough to basically say that it will cure everything and whatnot, cure cancer and all that things. But I know enough to say that it will probably solve a lot of human-induced sort of errors that could cost people money and pain. So that's my basically take on that. And Plutus, I'm looking forward to finding out more what it could do. Oh yeah, Caitlin Long is a very important sort of person who's been spearheading a lot of stuff on the legal side, Ron, and it'd be nice to basically have those people to come and comment, because having a legal visibility on the legal side of things is important. And I was in the Senate about 2 years ago. I don't know. It was 1 year ago when I met somebody. I lived in Washington D.C. and then they said, why don't you come over and talk to us about blockchain, and I went there, talked to them about decentralized blockchain and how it works and what it does and things like that. And I'm amazed that the U.S. government at least is very open to actually exploring the nature of this new technology. And invariably, I think nation states will try to position themselves in order to, create maximum benefit for their constituents. And it's a natural thing. So instead of banning it like people in India have done or whatever, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Basically, you don't understand what's going on, so you just ban it. In the United States, people have taken a more cautious approach of studying it first and understanding the implications before doing anything. And I think what will happen if I were a nation state, for instance, I wouldn't ban it because it's not bannable. Let's just put it that way. You could create a lot of serious pain if you introduce some draconian rules. But I think the better path of leveraging it and creating more value for your country is to basically say, all right, with this blockchain will exist in its form and will be open. What I can do in order to minimize the risk for my country or for the interests of country X is to regulate on ramps and off ramps, and this is happening already. Like if you want to exchange your crypto for currency, you have to do KYC, and that wasn't the case, by the way, in 2017 and 2018. Crazy times. I used to think this space is just, mind-boggling. There's this USDT that has the value of US dollar, and nobody knows if it actually is equal to US dollar. And we found out that it wasn't, and it still held its value. It's just fascinating, right? Anyway, the long story short, I think the governments are going to find out what would be the value generating sort of activities on blockchains, and try to entice the talent, the companies that will build these dApps and maintain these dApps as economic agents in their own countries, within their jurisdictions. And the notable example is Wisconsin, right? So they are creating all these frameworks to make blockchain, open blockchain, very, to be very friendly to open blockchain. And that's how they kind of entice economic activity into their state. And the reason why they're doing that is because before that, now coal is just kind of a dying industry. They need to survive. They need the taxation dollars, and that's what's driving it, right? And as long as they bring businesses, businesses that will make money, and that money, or this economic activity creates jobs, creates taxation dollars, the legislation will move in the right direction. And it's inevitable. I think if they decide to ban it or whatnot, it's going to just go to countries like Singapore and other things. And one of the things that I used to laugh at, and I completely got wrong, was that I used to think that, look at these geeks basically trying to reinvent the financial infrastructure and financial systems. But I fail to understand that they're just innovating, right? Okay, maybe they didn't have access to the way things work currently, but they iterated. People lost money, especially in Ethereum network and whatnot, but things are getting much more sophisticated at this point because, serious money is involved. And I used to be apprehensive because, people are, trying to, reinvent the wheel and trying to, create all these things that we have created a long time ago in the financial market. But now I understand that I should be more concerned with the fact that we haven't innovated enough in the financial industry as it stands today. Because the things you can do with the decentralized blockchain are just so vastly more valuable, and they don't have the burden of sustaining the current infrastructure. That it is a natural sort of evolution for this space in the world, in the global scale, to move from whatever it is right now to whatever it's going, whatever it could be with blockchain finance, with the help of blockchain. Now, I'm not saying that you should be careless with your experiments, but I think the whole industry, the whole global financial industry, is really ripe for disruption at this point. And we've seen it with the simple use case of money transfers, right? I mean, I don't have to spend 20% of my amount of money that I'm sending on banking fees or whatnot from country A to B, and things are moving in that direction in the traditional finance, but it's just basically band-aids at this point. Blockchain does it so much seamlessly, and it gives you control over the actual asset rather than some network that might decide to block you, etc. So let's see what else is here. Floxa says, "Hi Umed, can you talk a little bit about your opinion on the SPO and current incentive model? We see more and more people moving to exchange pools as they can get higher rewards there. How do you see the SPO future?" When it comes to exchanges, I start asking myself, like, how do they get higher returns? And I don't have visibility to that in that direction. I mean, the exchanges might, if you think about the motivation for exchanges to offer these services, what the business model is, right? The business model is that they are a place for exchanging one, a token to another token, and that is dependent on, their success is dependent on the liquidity, and to attract liquidity, they might think about a higher cost of rewards as a cost center, and entice people to come in and stake their assets. And they might be willing to pay because if I were the exchange and if I calculated that, I can offer more rewards in ADA, let's say, to these ADA holders, but I can more than make up for that cost, then I will offer that. And on a protocol level, I don't think there is a way to combat that, except for people being apprehensive about the fact that they are holding their assets on a centralized exchange that could be hacked any day. I wouldn't want to do that myself, because the history is littered with cases of exchange hacks, and they are centralized entities anyway. So why would you want to hold your your tokens on an exchange? And that is a strong enough incentive for me not to do that. But people are people; they chase higher returns, and you can't compete with those people or with these kind of value propositions by unless you offer higher returns than what exchanges are offering. Now that is not possible on the protocol level. So what I am proposing and what I would like to see more of is to increase the diversity of product offerings. So the SPO not only offers, let's say, the rewards, but there's auxiliary services or whatever, what have you could offer to people that will motivate them to stake with you. A more notable example of that is the Grow Pool that is donating a portion of their rewards, or maybe all of them, I don't remember, to a cause, right? So you are getting, so it aligns the interests of people. You're getting something in return, you're getting your rewards, but it also makes you feel better because you're helping a cause. So it doesn't have to be charity. It could be a business. And we are trying to build a pool tool so that you, as a stake pool operator, have these avenues to interact with your stakeholders, to offer them something. And by offering them something, I mean, like, you have avenues. Let's say that the current it's an amazing thing that we are building right now is that you will be able to chat with your stakeholders without having to identify them, but that they are your stakeholders, right? Because they have cryptographically verified themselves in the platforms, and the platform will allow you to chat with your if you're verified stakeholders, you have access to your SPOs. Now currently, I can open up a bunch of channels out there and try to talk to my stakeholders, and they are there. I don't know if they are my stakeholders or not. This is not verified. And I think if when we open the pool tool and let people to interact with each other, stake pool operators and stakeholders, and give them access to tools that they will be able to leverage to offer something, then we might see a bit of diversification and moving away from exchanges, because in addition to rewards, you will have a bunch of other things that you could offer, you get in return, and that might provide extra incentives for people to move away. Now that being said, I know that the IOHK is working on a different scheme. Reward scheme that might actually skew the incentives mechanism away from exchanges, so that it's not profitable for them to open up 20 or 30 stake pools with zero ADA in them pledged, and just raking all the cash and offer higher rewards. So those are two kind of options that I see that could help decentralize the system further and bring the stake back into the stake pool operators. So Floxa is saying, I'm currently staking in a Daedalus to a small pool. Don't get me wrong, currently the API of 5% plus. However, the Binance offering 7.9 is super tempting. Yeah, I mean, when somebody is offering you a higher percentage and you are here in this space in order to make money, I can't compete with that. there's no way, a pool operator with a 5% return can compete that, because there's no way I could generate that much. It's just capped on a protocol level. So, and by the way, the exchanges, they can't offer you the 7 to 9% forever, because that money has to come from somewhere, right? And I don't know. I don't know how the math works in them. Maybe they are able to generate that differential, a difference in perpetuity, but you know, I can't tell. Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. Maybe the fact that they get so much liquidity justifies that cost. And if they do, then you can't compete with that unless you introduce some sort of mechanism that discourages them, economically discourages them to actually do that. And that's the only way you can fight the exchanges economically. Yeah, I mean, that's the idea of Fluxa. I think on pool tool level, we will be able to basically connect the pool operators with stakeholders, and let them decide what they want to offer in addition. My idea is to basically completely think about it as a Facebook for stake pool operators, instead of paying some other web host service. You just basically get a page on a pool tool, and you can configure it to provide anything you want, and that page will be available and viewable to your approved stakeholders. Now let's decide. Let's say that you have a tiered sort of approach to your services. Let's say you're offering services that has a basic and a premium sort of component to it, right? Now you can decide on Pool Tool that, okay, I want this service to be available to people who have staked with me long enough, and there is a metric called lifetime stake, and you can say that anybody who has staked with me with a lifetime stake of 100K gets access to the premium features. And that should provide enough incentives for people to stake with you and stake with you longer. So if I have a 10K, I may not be available for those services, but if I stake with you for 10 epochs, I get some features unlocked. And those are the things that we're trying to build in order to give access and more tools for stake pool operators to actually attract more stake, and also for the stake holders to actually have incentives to pick their pool operators with some thought behind, and stick with them longer. That's the idea, right? So if you say, okay, I'm not eligible right now, but I could be eligible in the future, then you will stake for 10 epochs at least to gain access to certain services. And if you like them, you'll stake longer. So those are the kind of things that we're kind of toying with, and we're trying to build them up. It's been a tough sort of exercise there. We had to do a lot of back end sort of work, but the major part of the work has been done. So we're gonna focus on the front end, and hopefully you will guys see some nice options there for you if you're a stake pool operator. All right, guys, I think we are I've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap it up today. It's been great having you all here, and I'm gonna start doing these things more regularly. It's been great talking to you all, and listening to your inputs and questions. It's always exciting to be able to talk to the audience, the community. We have one of the best communities in the whole crypto, and I'm really proud of everybody in this space. Talk to you later, and this was Slot Leader AMA number 3, and I will speak to you next time. Thank you for joining.